Little bit of post commentary. If you are looking what tanks to talisman and what tanks to buy, then take a look at the description. A very good friend of mine called Hazy, who's very good at tanks, is going to be doing a similar video as this one, except on ground vehicles. So feel free to check him out. Tell him I said hi, and check out his content as well. But on to the video that you actually came here for, which is RRB. So there's a sale going on right now. So I went to my trusty account with the whole arcade battle, just so that I could see how much these planes cost and what planes are actually available on the sale. Because on my account I of course have most of these vehicles and I don't actually know which ones are back, how expensive they are, and if they're even still there. So I went to this little account and we're gonna be looking at what planes you should buy in the sale. And some rules: I'm not going to be looking at Silver Lions. I do recommend to buy a premium right on the sale, especially because most of these vehicles are, one, more expensive to repair, and two, make less Silver Lions as well. So these are of course more lucrative in the long run, but some of these planes are just better than these. So keep that in mind. I'm going to be skipping tier 1 and tier 2 because these are not very, they don't make that much money, don't make that much RP, and they're relatively cheap. So in my eyes these are basically a waste of money. XP50 is a great plane, but the Silver Lion modifier, as well as it being tier 2, makes it not really worth to grind with. It's a great clubber, but I won't recommend it in terms of grinding. I'm going to be purely looking at grinding and what planes are actually good. So starting off, we have America. All of these planes are actually pretty decent. The XP50 as well as the BF-109 F4 are two amazing planes. They might be a little bit under tiered. I have a video on both of these if you care. You have the P-47 D-28, one of the best planes at the BR that you can talisman. And other than that, I don't really recommend the rest. The FU-4 is a good plane, but I would recommend to skip this one because it flies very similarly to the P-51 D-30, which is tier 4. And you would be better off talismaning this thing. Of course, I still recommend you to get the talisman for the FU-4B, one of the best planes at the BR. You have a lot of guns. You have a very good flight performance. Also got a video on this one, as well as on the D30, as well as on the D28. I do have a video on most of the vehicles I'm recommending today. In terms of the premiums, the Focke-Wulf 190 A8 I don't recommend. The LF9, well, it's decent. I don't really recommend it, especially since you can talisman this thing. Or the A2D. A2D is an amazing plane. It's not for everyone. It flies very finically, well, you know what I mean. It doesn't fly the best. It's not an easy plane to play, and you have to fly in these teams that are completely littered with the A2Ds. Of course, do keep in mind you get a 2400 Golden Eagle plane and it's tier 4. It's an amazing grinder, especially for ground pounding, but in terms of RRB and actually trying to get better and getting air kills, I don't really recommend it. It's a good grinder, but I hate to fly this thing. Then you got tier 5 F89B as well as the D. It's relatively expensive, but these two planes are pretty insane right now. Of course, keep in mind that the matchmaker might change in the future, and maybe you'll start seeing different planes in the enemy team as well, and then this becomes maybe a shorter play. They're not the best planes, but right now they're extremely effective. This thing with the guns, it can basically ground pound anything, and you can rack in a lot of RP. This thing has the proxy fuse rockets, and because of the way rockets work right now, you actually can't see them till, well, you see them fire, and then after 300-400 meters they disappear and you fly blind into those rockets. Very terrifying to go head on with. It's a good plane, but you have to like this kind of stuff. In terms of talismanic stuff here, I don't really recommend that many vehicles. The F-86s kind of power capped by the Harrier. The F-25 is maybe decent, but I don't really recommend it. I would recommend you to get either the F-84G or the F-80C. The F-80A5 is decent as well right now, but the A5 you have to I call them the SK60s. You fight SK60s in this thing right now, and the F-80C is just much better versus that plane. You can still beat them. You can still beat them pretty handily, but when there's a lot of them, it becomes kind of annoying in this thing. In terms of talismaning, tier 4, tier 6, I don't really recommend doing that. It's mostly a waste of money. Maybe if you get like the Phantom and you want to grind the rest, you want to spade it fast, and you have it, maybe then, but I don't really recommend doing that. On to Germany. Again, these planes are not very much worth it. The Yak 1B is a great plane, but again, it's tier 2, so the grind isn't that good for it. Ta 154, very cheap, decent modifiers. I wouldn't get it, I don't like it myself. If you do like it, feel free to pick it up. LA5 FN, decent planes, absolutely horrid guns. I don't really recommend these premiums. The P47 D28 is alright. The D16, sorry. It's an alright plane, it's basically D25, it's a worse D25. If you like this, feel free. I'm not really a fan of these, but that's up to you. This thing on the other hand, 109 F4, same as in the American tree. Highly recommend the Talisman this thing. G2 Trop as well, really good plane, but I would recommend the F4 over the G2. The 190s aren't the best planes. If you like them, this is probably the best one. 4.3, or you want to get this thing, but in general, I just don't recommend the Talisman 190s. Maybe the 152H, but of course you have to keep in mind that you will fight jets nowadays. K4 is great, but I think that the G6 is better for its BR. 4.7, almost the same flight performance as the G14, which is at 5.3. So this is a very good pickup. All of these other planes aren't very good. This is a great grinder in terms of ground pounding, but I don't really recommend these because, well, they're attackers and they're very easy to get focused down in. 152H, very good plane. C3, not so much. Premiums over here, just I don't recommend any of these. The Junker 288 is extremely good, but again, it's a bomber. I'm not a fan of those. I don't recommend it, but if you like that kind of playstyle, if you like grinding by just going in, dropping some bombs, and then killing 2 or 3 guys with your 20mm gunner, feel free to pick it up. This is amazing ground pounder, but again, it's a ground pounder. You have to like that stuff, otherwise you skip it. Then you reach tier 5. No, you do not want to Talisman the 262s. Maybe this thing if you want to ground pound, but I don't recommend it. Arado C3, don't really recommend it. It's a great plane, but it's a bomber. And right now with some planes going around at this BR, because you do get up to the 8.3 quite often nowadays, you can't really do a lot. If this thing was 7.0, I would recommend it. But since you face a lot of 8.3s right now, MiG-15 regular, MiG-15 bis-ish, I don't recommend it. G91R3, amazing little plane. You don't really get up to the 9.7 that much to the Harriers. Mostly it's going to be 9.3, maybe 9.0. You do face A7Ds, which are pretty annoying, but this plane overall is very good, especially if you use it in ground battles. And these are just all not buyable. G91R4, I really do not recommend you to get this thing. MiG-15 bis, it's an amazing plane, but if you get up tier to 9.7, you get absolutely clapped. A little bit of the same story as this thing. These two are both very good, but I do recommend this one over the MiG-15 bis if you are not a very good player, because it is a little bit harder to get guns on people and shoot them out of the air. C2B and the C1A, I would say skip it. The 163s right now are bugged, don't recommend them either, and these are very lackluster as well. The MiG-21 MF has a very good team right now, so if you want a Talisman one, Talisman this, and all of these other planes are kind of power craps. This one, and this one, absolutely horrible right now. And the CL-13B, while it's good, it's 9.7, you're going to be facing Harriers, and you don't want to face Harriers in that thing. And then we go to the Russians. All of these planes are not very amazing. I-180S is a very good pickup, but of course it's not on sale right now. And all of these are just kind of lackluster. It's all rank 2 anyway, so it doesn't really matter. P63, while it's good, is it that amazing? I wouldn't say so. I would say get the Yak 3. Skip the Yak 3P, essentially the same plane with extra 20 mils. 20 mils aren't the best for the Russians, as we all know. Use the Yak 3 regular 4.0, insane plane. Then you have rank 4, right below it, Yak 9U, also very insane. Could probably be 5.0, extremely under-tiered. These two aren't that good. Yak 3U is amazing, I-225 is amazing. LA7 is also amazing. Keep in mind, these very differ in terms of playstyle. I have a video on the I-225, the LA7 and the Yak-3U. Yak-9U is in the pipeline, but I haven't made that one yet. If you do want to make a decision, LA7 is more about being fast. I-225 is about climbing and energy trapping people, and the Yak-9U basically does both. Yak-3U is insane on the deck. And then you got the Yak-3 VK107. Very good plane. Do keep in mind you still have the two Chevecs or the B-20s. It's essentially the same plane as the Yak-3U at a higher BR, 0.4 higher. Do keep in mind this thing is much better at altitude, and on the deck they're very close. Yak-3U is slightly better on the deck, but the Yak-3 VK107 is an amazing plane. And if you like Doras, the Focke-Wulf 190 D9 is a very good pickup, but do keep in mind this thing, even with 50% sail, is still 3700 Golden Eagles. And then we reach rank 5. And one of the best planes you can get in here is the MiG-9 late. Absolutely insane plane. I do really recommend this thing. Skip the MiG-9 regular, it's just not that good. LA-15, good, very good, but do keep in mind that 23mm are a bit weird to use, but that's something for you. I have a video on the LA-174, which is essentially the same plane, so if you want to see how this thing flies, I up-tiered it to 9.3, so basically face the planes that you shouldn't face, but if you can see how I beat those, you can beat the lower tier planes as well. Yak-30 is very good, but you can get up-tiered to 9.3. Right now, if the A7D gets up-tiered, then this thing becomes very good again, and the Yak-23 is also very good. But I do recommend the LA-15, but at most the MiG-9 late. Best bang for your buck, 7.3, amazing flight performance. It goes over 900, basically nothing can touch you. Even in a full up-tier to 8.3, you will outperform a lot of planes. Go away, Cypher. No one wants to see you come head on. And then you get these, just a whole long line. Skip the Su-7s, skip the Yak-38, absolutely abysmal. MiG-17 gets slapped by Harriers right now. MiG-19, not very good. MiG-21, F-13, pretty decent right now, but you do have to face Harriers still. And is about to drop the event vehicle, which is essentially the same, but a little bit different with a 23mm gay SH, which is the same gun as this thing. MiG-21 Biz is of course very good, but I don't recommend you again to Talisman rank 6. Then we go to Britain. We can skip most of these. The Corsair F Mark II is an amazing silver lion grinder, and it's extremely cheap, but I don't really recommend this to grind the rest of the tree. Typhoon Mark 1 beat late. Insane plane. Do recommend to pick it up. If you want to use a Spitfire here, use the Spitfire Mark 9. I'm not a fan of Spitfire, so I'm not recommending most of these. But if you want to get a Spitfire, the Mark 9 is probably the best in this whole line. These are all not very competitive, sadly. These planes aren't very good. Hellcat is usable, wouldn't recommend it. Mustang is also usable, but also wouldn't recommend it. The Tier 4 premiums, I would say get the Hornet. Unfortunately so, it's not on sale right now, because well, it just got added. Griffin Spit, this one is very good. I do recommend getting this one over Talismaning the Mark 14. The only problem is that it's almost 3 times as expensive, so do keep that in mind. MB5 is an extremely fast plane, but if you're flying solo, if you're not very good at the game, I don't recommend this thing. It's pretty frustrating to fly. Flies a bit like a P-51D30, except that you have Hispanos, you do have a working rudder, but you also crap out all of your speed in a single turn, so be wary of that. Skip the Seafires. Tempest Mark 5 is alright, I don't recommend it. Tempest Mark 2 is very good, but 6.0, so you might face jets. LF9, same story as the USA one. And for the Griffins, if you want to Talisman any Griffin, get the first one. And the Sea Fury is also good. Hornet is an amazing plane, also got a video on this thing. But do keep in mind that it is a heavy fighter. You have insane performance, but sometimes it's a little bit hard to get your guns on target. The Hornet Mark 1 is a little bit better right now, but I'm not too sure if they're actually going to change that up. And then we reach rank 5. You got the Meteor Mark III, which is very good. You can turn with most props actually. Sea Meteor Mark III is also amazing, but you get up to 8.3, an awful lot right now, which makes it kind of frustrating to fly. So do keep that in mind. You got the Venom, skip that thing. Meteors, these meteors are not very good. The 7.7 one Might be flyable. Haven't flown this thing in a very long while, so I can't actually tell you. I'm actually going to fly this thing out relatively soon here, but I would recommend you to either Talisman the Mark III, or get the Attacker, or get the Swift F7. Harrier, these are not on sale. Mark 8 Reaper, wouldn't recommend. Then you get to rank 6. All of these planes are basically, you know, it's rank 6. You have to pick what you like. If you want to keep flying something, Talisman that. Otherwise, just skip the rest. On to Japan. FU-1A. Absolutely insane silver line grinder. It's amazing. Same with the E7. Very cheap pickups, but I would recommend the FU-1A over the E7. Just because of the silver line modifier, which is, I believe, a little bit higher. Oh no, the E7 has a higher modifier, but the 1A is a little bit easier to fly. You can just go fast. No one will touch you, and you can gun everyone down. E7 is a little bit more adaptive, a little bit more fun to fly in my opinion. I do recommend it for the fun factor, as well as the silver line modifier. J2M2, I can skip this thing. It's too good to skip. It's rank 2, sure. Not sure how much the Talisman is going to cost, but this little plane is absolutely bonkers. Rank 3. Probably going to be stuck with the A7M. If you have this one, you probably want to Talisman this. Not much of a fan of the American or the Japanese tree. The Kia 83 Otsu is also insane. The problem is you have Ho5 cannons and they're not very good. Kia 61s I wouldn't recommend getting. If you like a zero, fly the A6 M5. If you want a 13mm, get this thing. Yeah, I would recommend the second one because the guns are just a little bit better. They have the long barreled 20mm instead of the, oh, they both have. Never mind, scrap that. Get the A6 M5 4.3. Then we reach rank 4. N1K, absolutely not. J2M, the M3 is good. It's essentially the M2, but with more guns. I would recommend it. It's good, but it's still a J2M. People will still outrun you, and it's a little bit less competitive than it is at 4.3, of course, because, well, it's a whole BR lower. J7W1, extremely lackluster. Then you got the Kia 84s. If you want a Talisman one, get the Kia 84 Otsu. You basically get 5.7 matchmaker 24/7. If you get fully up tiered, you get Kikas in your team, which are insane. And at 5.3, you mostly will be at 5.7, and the 2 extra guns will help, because the Ho5s aren't that amazing. Kia 83 is a great plane. J5N I actually don't recommend. I hated it. Maybe it's good. Change my mind in the comments. I just despise it. J2M4, don't get it. J2M5, it's alright. I don't like the guns. The guns hit hard, but they're not easy to use. Because, well, the low rate of fire and you don't have a lot of ammo, so it's very easy to miss the easier shots. I have a video on this thing as well, if you want to see if you actually like this thing. Rank 5, no brainer, Kika or the V3 if you have it. If you have the V2 spaded, maybe get that. I would recommend the V3 or the V1. I got a video on comparing these two, it's in the intro. You don't have to watch the whole thing, it's only about a minute if you want to see which one you want to get. All three are very similar, but I would recommend the V3 as the best one. Of course, you do want to grind all the way down then, but you want to Talisman either the V3 or the Kika. The Kika is absolutely insane. It should probably be 7.3 as well, just like this thing, but it's at 6.7 right now, so you can probably bully some props. Just no. If you want to Talisman any tier 6, then get the Phantom and go to China. No, yeah, CW21, I mean, it's absolutely busted, but it's tier 1. You don't want to Talisman a tier 1, it's just a waste of money, but it's probably only going to be like, what? Oh, I don't have it. Never mind. It's probably going to be like 200 or 300 G, so maybe pick it up if you want, but I don't recommend it. A6M2, I would skip. It's not a very good plane. It's extremely slow. It's very frustrating to fly, and especially when you have this thing in the tree, P-47 D28, which is the same as in the US one of the best planes at the BR. You want to pick this thing up if you already have it. Otherwise, if you're not in any of these planes, Kia 84 is pretty good. 5.3, a bit of the same story as the Japanese one, but it's the 5.3 one. Not sure how the matchmaker is on the Chinese side, but this thing is still a very good plane. P-51K, as well as the L. These two planes I recommend. This thing I do not, and this thing I do not either. The D20 is absolutely, well, shit. Then we get to rank 5, Shenyang, if you don't have it, because this thing is very good. Of course, now you faced the Harriers, unfortunately, so you can't really use it that well. F-84G, and again, the MiG-9 late. F-30, maybe. I wouldn't recommend it when you have these two things in the line, unless you really like it. F40, you get absolutely clapped by Harriers, you get up tiered every game. And again, tier 6. All of it is pretty lackluster. If you want a Talisman any, get either the F100A or the F104G. It has the AIM-9Js, which are essentially some of the best missiles at top tier right now. Then we go to Italy. All of this is pretty meh. This thing is pretty meh. It's a gunplane. It can shoot people down very easily, but it's not very good in terms of flight performance. And then we reach rank 3, which actually has quite a little bit of options. You got the BF-109G2, which is very good. It's on sale right now, only 2300. One of the best planes at the BR. Or you want to get the V205 Series 3 if you have plenty of silver lines already. This one is of course better because you will make a lot more silver lines because this thing is not premium. G55s, I don't actually know how good these are. I just know that this thing is definitely worth it. I hate it. It's very boring to fly, but it's an extremely good grinder. And if you want to grind Italy, this thing is no brainer. Only 2000 Golden Eagles, tier 4, and you will be able to grind up until here. And then when you reach this area, G91, not G91, F84G and a Vampire FB52A. These two planes are no-brainers. Get one of these, very good planes. G91YS kind of goes into the bin right now. F104S is very good, but it's very situational, and I don't recommend you to get this. F86K, absolutely power crapped, abysmal right now, and Seal Mark IV is not worth your time. It's a F86A5, but it doesn't have slats. So imagine an A5, but actually not being able to turn. Then we reach my worst 3 in the game. You don't really want to get most of these planes. Yak 3, Russian plane luckily, and it's the Yak 3, the 4.0 one, same as in the USSR 3. Very good, only 800 Golden Eagles. I recommend you to pick this one up. The Narval, I want to like it and has a lot of guns, but the climb rate is so bad. You don't have an idea how easy people can energy trap you. You don't turn very well, so you get absolutely a shit brick of a plane that doesn't want to get to altitude. All of these playing the F8F I would not recommend. The FU7 is very good for ground pounding as well as for just killing air targets with the cannons, but you do have to keep in mind that it has the same flight performance as the AU1 at 6.0. It's a little bit up tiered because of the what's it called? The snap rockets, which are very good for ground pounding, but essentially you get an FU4, the 5.0 engine, on the AU1 frame. So this thing, flight performance wise, should probably be 5.0, but it has the 20 mils and it has the rockets, and thus it's 6.0, which is a little bit sketch. Rank 5, do not get the Vautour, whatever you do. Please, for the love of God, don't fly this thing right now. You're just gonna face A7Ds every game, and you're not gonna have fun. Get either the F84G, get the Uragan or the Barugan, whatever you like the most. They're essentially the same plane. I made a video on the differences as well, which I'll link in the description. Super Mystere, no. Mirage, it's alright, don't recommend it though, because right now the MiG-21 Bish will absolutely eat your ass. The E-10 Dart is an absolutely insane plane. Unfortunately, again, you get up tier to Harriers, and if you haven't noticed yet, the Harriers do ruin quite a bit of these planes. F86K, just no. F100D is, again, pretty alright. Jaguar is also a big no, just don't bother, and skip it. And then we reach this. I don't know what to say. This plane is good. This plane is also very good, unfortunately, so it's not a Golden Eagle pack. And unironically enough, I'm actually going to tell you to talisman the B-18B. And over here you want to talisman the T-18B. You want to skip this thing, it's a little bit heavier with the 57. Flight performance is worse, also a little bit of a higher BR. I wouldn't recommend it. Then we reach the SK60, we all know and we all hate it. Again, it's not overpowered. And you can change my mind, it's way too slow, but it's still a good plane. Good plane, worth a talisman. This thing, absolutely not. This has been one of the worst planes I've flown all year. I absolutely despise it, and it goes the same for this thing. Video soon, but really just please skip these two. J28B, very good plane. And he's J21, A21, J29, 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 all don't recommend. And that's basically it. I tried to keep it as short as possible, probably went on for a bit longer than I would have liked, but I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments, And if you want to see a video, I have made a video on almost every of these planes, and most of them I compare them to the counterparts as well. So if you want to see that, check out my channel. It's probably too much to link in the description because it's going to be one massive shit list. Just type in my name with the plane behind it and something should pop up. Hope it was helpful. Have a nice Christmas everyone, and I will see you all very soon again.